Nigeria has got around a dozen states that base their law on Sharia law, where if a man indulges in homosexuality, it is actually punishable by death. A lesbian would get 6 months in prison and 50 lashes. Well, but is that something you like? You like the idea of that?
Talking as a Muslim, homosexuality falls in the category of things that are forbidden, strictly. No, you know, it is not.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're United Africa is an undisputed Africa. So, as I see, this debate that they're having, it's basically about gays on the continent, and they're discussing where it was originated, if it was originated in Africa, why is it so taboo in Africa, and the high Muslim faith in certain countries in Africa that still use Sharia law, and if it should be legal on the continent and stuff and so forth. But it's a good, very nice debate. So let's dig into it. Let's continue and then let me know what you think about it as well. Boom.
Set the scene there. David Bahati. Like it or not, homosexuality is there in Africa. You cannot say it is un-African, can you?
It's un-African because it is inconsistent with African values of procreation, of a belief in the continuity of family and clan. So
the existence of homosexuals in Africa, you think, is compromising population growth in Africa? Is that what you're saying?
Certainly.
It is?
Yeah.
Can you give us a figure on that, Mr. Bahati?
No, I do not have to give you the figure because homosexuality is illegal in our country, and therefore there's no way we can capture this figure into our statistics.
Is it about 30 million people live in Uganda?
We have 33 million people living in Uganda.
33 million in Uganda, and you think that's not enough? You think your population's being compromised by the existence of homosexuals?
No, the key issue is it is inconsistent with our belief of continuity of family and clan.
All right.
That's key.
Festus Mahai, is homosexuality un-African?
No, because there are homosexuals in Africa as elsewhere. It does appear that homosexuality have always existed.
Paula, you have lived in several countries right across Africa. In your view, do you think that there is this kind of common position that homosexuality is either African or un-African?
I think it varies. I mean, but like Remo Hai said, it has always been with us, and ideological prejudice has also always been with us. So the question of whether it's African or not is really just a question of whether we want to cling to the ideological prejudice or whether we want to let people have the right to experience their own humanity. You know, you can't change human nature, but culture is about how you respond to it. So I would say homophobia is the un-African thing because homophobia creates a culture of hatred, it creates a culture of intolerance, and that has no space in our continent.
Sadique, so homosexuality is African, it's homophobia that is un-African. From an African and Muslim perspective, what's your view?
Well, I think homosexuality is un-African, first of all, because even though it's something that is human nature, it's not something that we have promoted. It's not something that in Africa naturally is seen as something deviant. People have the natural instincts, yes, but over centuries, even though we have had homosexuals over the years, over the centuries, they've not come out. It's not something we're used to in the African continent. And so when people
So what are you saying? You're all right with homosexuals existing as long as they're quiet about it?
Yes, because I think it offends the sensibility of others around them.
Why does it affect the sensibilities of others?
Because it's something that's just recently now that they're starting to make it so public. Let me put it like that.
And then homophobia, Paula says that's the thing that is actually un-African. I mean, would you agree with that?
Well, I think nobody should attack anybody based on their natural instincts or whatever they feel like doing. As long as they're adults, they're consenting to it, people should leave others too.
And then, what about from a Muslim perspective? Because Nigeria has got around a dozen states that base their law on Sharia law, where if a man indulges in homosexuality, it is actually punishable by death. A lesbian would get 6 months in prison and 50 lashes. Well, but is that something you like? You like the idea of that?
Talking as a Muslim, homosexuality falls in the category of things that are forbidden, strictly. No, you know, it is not allowed. It is haram.
Yubi, I mean, I have to say to you that when Sadiqa says something like, actually, the majority of people's sensibilities are affronted when it comes to that very assertive gay agenda that we do see in Western countries, and it is that which is un-African. Fair point.
Not at all, Zainab. I mean, when I listen to David and also Sadiqa, what I hear is basically a tissue of irrational argument and hatred. And where does one even start? Let's start with David's point of view. This idea that African values is all about procreation and we're all a bunch of sex machines is nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Okay? What does David have to say to a straight couple who's sterile, that they should feel less African because they can't give birth to kids? What about a gay couple that have decided, actually, I want to have a kid, but I want to continue living in a same-sex relationship the day after I've spawned one? Will you be more comfortable with that person? It's just a badly thought-through point of view. And the same with Sadiqa's. I mean, this idea of the 2 points that she's mentioned, firstly, that I get offended. Well, I get offended by homophobes. Does that mean that he must go into the closet, as it were? No. We all have a right to exist. The fact that you are aesthetically insulted by looking at two people who are in the same-sex relationships, who are holding hands in public, that's neither here nor there. Why should I be condoning your homophobia?
Sadiqa, are you offended by
No, not
this
at all.
gentleman here?
No.
But he's just told you he is a gay
I...
man working in gay activism, and he wants to be open about it.
Well,
are you offended by him?
No, I'm not. The display of their how do I put it in now?
Their position.
The public display of, that's what I mean by...
Public display, yes. Two men kissing in public, for instance. You don't like
kind
that?
Of thing. Well, would ordinarily accept it from a straight couple.
Do you accept that, perhaps? I mean,
well,
do you want the right to kiss somebody, a male partner or boyfriend in public?
Well, of course I do. I mean, it's a good start. That, you know, I'm not about to be lashed for what I'm doing if it was up to her. But the real question... The real question, Sadiqa, is this. Do you accept that the fact that you are offended in terms of your sensibilities, do you accept that there's no basis for public policy and for laws, that it's your own private viewpoint, and I respect your entitlement to have it, but you wouldn't co-sign your name to a bill by David? Do you accept that?
I won't co-sign my name to a bill like that.
All right, we'll develop that point later. You said very clearly, homosexuality is un-African because Africans want to go forth and multiply and have children, and you actually said that the existence of homosexuals in Africa compromises population growth. Is that what you said?
In the long run, and that's one reason.
The long run.
The other reason is we don't have to confuse 2 points. One, existence of something does not necessarily mean acceptance. It's an acceptance of homosexuality that makes it African, or the unacceptance of homosexuality that makes it an African. It's not the existence. There are so many things that have existed on the continent.
David,
the other
two points. That's nonsense.
If I can make a point.
Firstly, you don't have a monopoly on what it means to be African. Not every single person on the continent shares that paper. Okay?
I'll give you a chance to come back. Okay? Just a minute.
And secondly, but much more importantly, let's say for the sake of argument that the majority of Africans share your viewpoint. So what? The fact that the majority of people may be sexist and misogynist doesn't mean we need laws that reflect that. It means those attitudes are wrong and need to be engaged. The question of what is morally right or wrong is not a question of doing a head count and seeing what the majority of people think.
But this point about in the long run, populations are going to be compromised because of the existence of homosexuals.
Well, it's nonsense. I mean, from a statistical point of view, gay people are always going to be a statistical minority, so it's not a real problem. But at any rate, I mean, in the long run, we're all dead. The question is whether it's morally okay, whether it's morally okay for public policy to reflect that viewpoint.
No,
David Bahati, let him reply.
You'd be certainly entitled to his opinion, and that's why we celebrate this democracy. But the point I make, the point I make,
okay, let him make his point.
I make also is that Africa, especially from the country I come from, we are Christians, and we view homosexuality as sin. Period.
Well, we're going to be talking to some Christians in the audience. Let me just get a view there. Your point.
I am an African. We believe in being remembered for eternity. So the only way to do that is through reproduction. How do I reproduce with another man and claim that I'm an African? It can't be done. I am a Christian. In a biblical point of view, homosexuality is wickedness. The only way for my surname to continue, you see, for my surname to continue is through reproduction. I am an African.
Okay, thank you. Right. Let's just stick to this question of, is homosexuality un-African? I want to go to an African traditional healer here in our audience. Nkunzi Kabinda is from here in South Africa, and let's just see some pictures of the kind of things that she does. And using herbal remedies, Nkunzi uses ages-old medicine to treat patients all sorts of ailments that they're suffering from. She's also a lesbian, married to Joanna, and they have an adopted daughter who you can see there. Nkunzi.
Yes, my dear.
Do you see any contradiction between being an African traditional healer and also a married lesbian?
I don't see any contradiction. For me, I am the child of the values. My ancestors, they accept me the way I am, and they allow me to have a wife.
This is your wife,
Yes,
Joanna, next
this
to you
is
there.
my wife.
You've celebrated, is it 3 years you've been married now?
Definitely. And
Joanna. And do you have people who say, oh, I'm not going to go to Nkunzi because, you know what, she's a lesbian and she's got a wife? Do you have people who are slightly turned off by that and don't come to you?
about that. I do have clients who are older men, and when they come to me, they're like, definitely, you are helping us. And they accept my sexuality. I even got trainees, students that I'm training who are straight. And
Right.
they came to me to be trained to become traditional healers.
You two just stand up for me. You stand up for me. Nkunzi and your wife, Joanna. David. Siddiqa. Stay standing. No, actually, come here. Come here. Come here. Does anybody have a problem? Does anybody have a problem with these two ladies? Siddiqa, you have a problem. You have a problem. David Bahati, you have a problem with two ladies like this. You would have a problem.
Well, I'm actually uncomfortable proceeding forward.
Uncomfortable. Okay, but they have adopted a child presumably who was in a home.
She was suffering. Basically, when we found the child, she was definitely not in a good state.
So there you are. You've got a gay couple here who are actually helping a child that was abandoned for whatever reason. So they are helping the family values which you say you adhere to.
We do recognize that there are countries which have which recognize homosexuality as a human right. And in South Africa, certainly we do that. But this is something that we shall not allow in our country.
All right,
and
okay.
we should be respected.
Sit down,
by
ladies.
that.
Thank you very much, ladies. Okay. I have to say, though, Nkunzi and Joanna, a fellow South African here, Chief Luvaivai, he is chief of the Venda people. What's your view? You describe yourself also as a traditional South African. What about homosexuality? In your view, is it African or is it un-African?
In actual fact, you must remember that a culture is dynamic. It changes and it moves with time. But however, there are some things that we cannot change them when it comes to the culture, more especially the value and the morals. We must look at the end results of this action that was happening here. What is going to inform our young children? Are we going to have a sustainability population?
Let them clap you.
We as traditional leaders look after the customs and the value of our African people. We cannot allow that.
You cannot allow same-sex. You don't like same-sex relationships. What do you call your traditional family values here then? Polygamy, for instance, is something which is very common in African tribal society. You're saying that that's okay? A man can have 3, 4, 5 wives? Is that okay?
Polygamy, it is okay.
Is okay?
Yes.
How many wives do you have? How many wives do you have?
I've got one wife married officially now, and I'm still having 2 to marry.
So you are a defender of polygamy because you think it's traditional African culture and you think it's right. And how many children do you have? How many children do you have?
I've got 4 children.
4 children, okay.
So imagine if I was promoting what
4
the
official
topic,
children?
Yeah, official.
How many unofficial?
I don't have an official. I don't have an official. What I would like to elaborate is that, what about if during my time, if I came across with this situation, It means that I'll be not having the kids. And then what is going to be a continuity of my chieftainship? Because there will be nobody called to take over.
So you're agreeing with David Bahati here?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I want to go to... Yeah, David, briefly, and you then want to go to the audience some more.
If I can make one point. You've talked about adopting children, but we have a number of children in Uganda who have been traumatized by the fact that they've been adopted by gay couples, and they are traumatized. Listen, they are traumatized by being forced to call a man mom or a woman dad. It's we are looking at them and they're traumatized.
Yubi, you wanted to come here, and I want to go to the audience. Yubi?
Yeah, I wanted to make a small point. I think it might surprise many homophobes to know that gay people can actually procreate. Yes. So this argument...
Yeah, but he just said he doesn't like the idea of two same-sex people having a child.
Yeah, but then they need to pick their argument. Do they actually just don't like gay people full stop?
All right.
For no reason?
We'll develop that.
Or is it because of the false belief that gay people can't actually have kids or be good parents?
From South Africa, you are a practicing Muslim. What was your feeling when you heard Sadiqa speak about her Muslim African attitudes towards homosexuality?
I think, Sadiqa, your attitude reflects attitudes of many women that come from Middle Eastern countries and North African countries that are of the Islamic faith. And I want to tell you that being homosexual, and this is probably another debate all on its own, but being homosexual is not un-Islamic. If anything, the Quran promotes diversity. And I think that a lot of what you believe in, a lot of what you bring into the table is based on what you have been told by a patriarchal system. A patriarchal system that informs what African is, what un-African is, what Islamic is, and what un-Islamic is.
A Lutheran pastor here wants to say something. I'll hold the mic.
Yes. Hi, my name is Peter Oberholz. I'm Director of Inclusive and Affirming Ministries. What we do is we try and dialogue with all people, but especially Christians who believe in fundamentalism is the way. Now, I hear you say, David, it's un-African. Do you mean Africa before Christianity or after Christianity? Because you say we're also Christian. What is un-African is religious intolerance and fundamentalism. I'm hearing you speak from one side only, religious Christian fundamentalism, and I'm sorry to say the words you are using are identical to the 3 American pastors who went to your country to talk to you and your president and many leaders with their agenda saying to be trying to recruit the whole world.
All right.
So you want to be African of voicing the voice of right-wing American fundamentalists.
All right, okay. Just briefly address this point. You've heard it before that you have links with conservative Christian organizations, principally in America, the Family, it's called, for instance.
In relation to the piece of legislation that I'm proposing, it's a Ugandan legislation proposed by Ugandans. It has nothing to do with people from other countries.
All right, okay. I want to go to Victor Mukasa. Victor Mukasa, you are from Uganda, like David Bahati. You describe yourself as a transgender person.
I'm a human rights defender.
You're a human rights defender and a transgender.
Yes.
That rhymes. Okay. So, what do you make of what you've heard so far?
Yeah, I think it's just so disappointing to hear you, Bahati, telling lies to people here.
I'm sure he would not say that he's telling lies.
Yeah, he's telling lies.
Okay, he's got a different point of view from yours. Yes?
Okay.
So, you're saying...
Him telling people that homosexuality is un-African, and he links it to Christianity and all these things, yet you know very well, Bahati, even in all the history, I'm sure the history you've studied is what I've studied, in pre-colonial Africa, we were never told about homophobia in Africa. You know very well that it all started with the Christians coming and demonizing it. Perma pera, you know how we call them in our language, those missionaries. You also know that the penal code on which you're basing everything that you're doing against homosexuals was brought by the British when they colonized our nation.
Okay.
So guys, this is what I don't like. You see, the disrespect, how they are disrespecting Ugandan parliamentarian, they've shown no form of respect, and that bald-headed woman talking about your line. it's a difference of opinion. Why is it what you're saying is facts and what he's saying is lies? Who differentiate what's facts and what's lies? And this is what the guy, he sits there, he doesn't yell, he doesn't interrupt, but as soon as he starts to speak, interruptions, yelling. So this shows that these people, they're not tolerable. They don't have tolerance. They just want to bully people and shout things at people, and this is the reason why they're getting this mass pushback globally, because they are forcing. They're like, it's like you have to do this, but no. We're having a debate, and even in a debate we cannot speak freely. You're hugging us, shouting us down. No, that's not how it works. Let's continue.